call it a blow against humanity. After 6 games over 9 days, Deep Blue, the IBM computer, beat Garry Kasparov, considered to be the best chess player in the history of the game.
And whoa, Deep Blue Kasparov.
The great Russian champion was not a graceful loser.
Well, it has been 20 years since that epic battle between man and machine. The news report was from 1997 and Garry Kasparov versus the IBM computer Deep Blue. The Russian grandmaster and former world chess champion is undoubtedly one of the greatest players in the history of the game, but it is that battle against a faceless opponent that he will perhaps be best remembered for. A year earlier, he had defeated Deep Blue, but the rematch belonged to the computer, and it certainly seemed at the time that by extension, the future belonged to the computer as well. Garry Kasparov is reflecting on matches against Deep Blue and much more in his new book. It's called Deep Thinking, where machine intelligence ends and human creativity begins. And he joins me in our Toronto studio. Welcome.
Good morning.
When you look back at that loss, they called it a blow against humanity. Was it that?
I guess it was an exaggeration, but obviously it was a milestone in the history of computer science. We should remember that the founding fathers of computer science, like Alan Turing or Claude Shannon, they believed that if machine could beat human champion in chess, that would be a moment for artificial intelligence. In fact, they were wrong because I don't think that you can call Deep Blue intelligent. It was as intelligent as your alarm clock, though that losing to $10 million alarm clock didn't make me feel any better. I want to be very cautious when people keep using this term artificial intelligence, because we have to agree what on the definition. Do we mean by saying AI result or the process? Deep Blue reached the result. By the definition of its output, it was intelligent. It played world champions level chess. But when you look at the process, it offered us very little input into the mysteries of human intelligence.
And you actually won the first competition against Deep Blue the year before.
Yeah. People don't recall it. But
that's why I'm saying
yes.
it. I'm
I won.
it on the
so
record.
it was. But I think it's, if you look at the milestones, I think the game one of the first match that I won eventually, I lost this game. That was a real milestone, because the moment machine could beat the world champion in one game, the rest was, you may call it matter of technique. It's a matter of time. The signing was already on the wall. Analyzing the games of that match, and I used modern computers. And I have to tell people that a free chess app on your mobile phone, it's probably stronger than Deep Blue today.
Is that right? Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Because these machines are just getting stronger, faster, and what's happened with chess, that the game could be crunched by brute force once hardware got fast enough, database got big enough, and algorithm got smart enough.
It's interesting that you say that, because we have spoken here to Geoffrey Hinton, who's seen as the godfather of artificial intelligence, and he's at the University of Toronto and now has some association with Google as well. But he talks about the fact that when he was first starting to work on that, the machines just weren't fast enough, and now they are. That part of when it comes to artificial intelligence, it's about the capacity of these machines.
Yes and no, absolutely. Machines getting faster. That's why they could solve many other problems. Though chess, as most of other games, is mathematically infinite. The number of legal moves in the game of chess is more than the number of atoms in the solar system. But it's not about solving the game. It's about beating human opponent. And we're all vulnerable because we don't have the same steady hand as machine does. Inevitably we make mistakes or even inaccuracies that are not so important when one human faces another human. But with machines, you'll be punished instantly for making a mistake. Though when I just looked at our games, analyzing them today, I found that not only I made mistakes, but also Deep Blue made quite a few mistakes, which shows that machines' progress is very natural. So they're incessantly getting better and better.
Well, in fact, you make the point that one of the reasons it beat you in '97 was because they looked at '96, when you beat it, and they reprogrammed a bit,
it's
right?
It's not about reprogrammed. I recommend they read the book, because while I'm very complimentary about IBM science and the team that was behind it, then I still have many questions to the corporation and the way they organized the event, because only one player in the match was under tremendous psychological pressure, and some of
and I'm talking to him.
stupid mistakes I made. They were just result that I couldn't cope with the pressure and I would say questionable behavior of the organizers.
They called you a sore loser.
I said in the book, yeah, I'm a sore loser, yes. But you can't stay on top for 20 years if you're not a sore loser. You have to take it almost as a physical pain. And I blame myself for making these mistakes. But also, I now, 20 years later, I could see that certain of these mistakes were inevitable, because I wasn't ready for a match, win or lose. For me, it was still very much a great social and scientific experiment, and I've been treating IBM in the process of the preparing for the match as more like a partner than an opponent. And just when I got my wake up call about harsh realities that IBM wanted just to win the match and didn't care much about continuation of this experiment, so that was too late.
How was playing chess against a computer different than playing against a human?
Oh. When I first sat against Deep Blue across the chessboard in 1996, first match, I was a world champion for more than 10 years. I played, I think, 182 games in the World Championship matches and hundreds of other games against top grandmasters. And I knew my opponents. I knew what to expect from them. I knew what to expect from myself. I used to watch their body language and look straight in the eyes to gauge their intentions and to measure the plans. And then I faced Deep Blue. It's so different because you don't know what to expect. This is something that literally comes out of a black box. And psychology, which is a very important element of any human game, just is no longer there. In fact, actually, it's there, but it's only one way. Because you could be under pressure, you could make mistakes. Deep Blue doesn't care what happened in the previous game. It doesn't even know what's happened one move before. So there's so many things that could work for you in a normal, quote-unquote, chess against other humans. They are just either not working or working against you when you face the faceless.
How did you prepare for that?
That was a big question because not in 1996 or even in 1997 I had any access to Deep Blue games. In 1996 it was natural because that was the first event of the machine. Then we had an agreement that I would look at the Deep Blue games in the interim period, but then there was a mistake or a slip in the contract, and IBM pointed out that the contract referred only to the official games played by Deep Blue, which meant that all the games played in the lab, all training games, and that's the only games Deep Blue played, were not available to me. So I still didn't know what to expect, and it's quite a challenge for someone like me who's used to prepare a lot, analyzing the games for my opponents, facing again black box because I didn't know what was there, no games. It was quite tough. So I after winning the first match, losing the second one, I wanted to play the rubber match, the decisive match. But IBM decided to retire the computer.
Yeah, okay. How do you prepare physically for that?
Physically for Deep Blue or for other opponents?
Well, and for others. So what was the physical preparation like?
I kept myself in shape for my entire chess career, and even by the late 90s, I was in my 30s, so much older than most of my young opponents. But I kept winning tournaments because I was in excellent physical shape. I knew that there's always the correlation between your health and your physical shape that could give you confidence and your performance at the chessboard.
Was it push-ups or what were you
107, my personal record.
107 push-ups before a game, before
a
match?
No, it's my personal record.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not a come on. You're asking too much.
Okay,
no,
well,
chess is quite a physical sport.
Too,
when you play for 2 weeks or more, and games could last for 6 hours. So that takes a lot of your strengths, and it needs it puts you just under this constant pressure.
Physically exhausting as well as mentally exhausting.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep talking about artificial intelligence. There's an expectation that intelligent machines will displace workers. What do you think of that fear? Because you've been spending a lot of time looking at this.
I'm surprised that people are surprised, because that's the history of our civilization, history of progress. Machines replacing farm animals, machines replacing manual labor. Now machines are coming after people's college degree and Twitter accounts, and that's why everybody's talking about it. But there's nothing wrong about it. I would say it's excellent news, because every profession eventually should feel this pressure. Or else humanity will cease making progress. Machines will take over more menial parts of cognition, and that will help us to boost our creativity and curiosity. And by the way, let's not forget about beauty and joy. So we can do a lot of things if we keep pushing the horizons, if we're looking for new challenges. I always say machines won't make us obsolete, our complacency might. It's a new challenge for us, but I think it's a great challenge, because if machines getting smarter, we're getting smarter. And intelligent machines can help us to turn our grandest dreams into reality.
Did it take you a while to feel that way? I've read somewhere that you actually wanted to rip that Deep Blue apart.
No. Look, the reason I stayed on top for 20 years is because I was very good in analyzing my mistakes and coming back with new ideas. After that match in 1997, and while licking my wounds, I looked for an opportunity to combine human skills and machine skills. And I came up with a concept I called advanced chess, when humans and plus machine could play against another human plus machine. And there are many now games played on internet, what they call freestyle internet, where people could get together with machines and play against other humans that are using different computers. What's happened, that chess proved to be proved to be a perfect field to test human plus machine combination, which I believe is the future, because there's so many things that we can combine. The machine's brute force of calculation, machines algorithms, but on the other side we have our experience, we have our strategic overview, and look, we have purpose. Machines don't have purpose. We have passion. So there are many things that could go together, and I think that it's this kind of artificial intelligence that people are afraid of. It's a way to go, and I don't want people to be overwhelmed by these dystopian views promoted by great movies like The Terminator or The Matrix.
I'm wondering how you are watching and reacting to these the big cyber malware attacks, the WannaCry ransomware, and the use of computers for that kind of thing.
But that's very natural. You have hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people with access to computers and internet. And even if you have 1% of those that would like to use it for crimes or other illegal activities, you already have a few millions of experts trying to go after you. It's another reality. Every new technology, every step of the progress has been accompanied by illegal activities, by attempts of some to get an advantage over you, and these cyber attacks, they will become part of our life, and we just have to realize that we need to think about it seriously, and we have to understand that combining privacy and security will be more and more difficult.
You are also a human rights advocate, and I'm wondering how you see computers, the misuse of computers by government. You've raised concerns about the government use of computers and artificial intelligence to threaten freedoms. Talk to me about that. That's one of the greatest challenges for any democracy, when you just have to look at the privacy and security. Now it's moved to this problem is moved to digital era. I think it's wrong to expect that our data could be protected 100%. Data collection is inevitable, whether it's by the government or by the big multinational corporations. The question is, what will be done with this data? And here in Canada or in the United States or in most of the European countries, you are still protected by the legal system, by the rules, by the courts.
While in countries like Russia, Turkey, Iran, China, if your information is available to the government, you'll be prosecuted with disrespect to any legal restrictions, even if they do exist. So I think it's about what the governments can do with this information. And we have to look more at that side. How can we limit government's use of this information? Because it will be collected anyway. I mean, let's be honest, it's going to happen. Because we want our data to be protected, but at the same time, we want governments to make sure that the hacking attacks, that, by the way, could be far more dangerous because the hackers, they don't respect any rules. And if it's the states like Russia or China, they will just go after you and after your data with the malice intent.
Let's talk a little bit more about Russia. There have been a lot of accusations against President Putin that he and his intelligence agencies are using cyber warfare to undermine democracies in the West. What do you think that endgame's about?
It's a part of Putin's plan to stay in power endlessly, because since the Russian economy is falling and he doesn't expect it to get better, nobody thinks that oil will go back to $100 plus price tag. He needs to justify his stay in power, and confrontation with the free world is a very important element of that. Putin needs confrontation. Putin needs to spread chaos, and attacking democracy as an institution helps his propaganda machine in Russia to demonstrate that democracy is what? Is a cover-up. It's just, everything is rigged, and dismantling the aura of democracy as an important part of the human progress helps Putin and other dictators to send a message domestically that people shouldn't go to the streets demanding free and fair elections.
And you know all about this. I said you ran for president. You actually wanted to run for president in Russia. They wouldn't let you run. Am I right?
It's the running for president in Russia. It's quite an exaggeration, because in countries like Putin's Russia, you cannot participate in the political life the same way you can do it here in Canada. You cannot register a political party. You cannot do fundraising. You cannot campaign openly. The only debate in Russia is debate with riot police on the streets. So my campaign in 2007 was just to bring attention to the fact that even if you wanted to run, you will be stopped by rules that are imposed by the government to make sure that nobody who is not approved by Kremlin could get to the ballot.
Where do you live?
In New York, Upper West Side.
Do you spend time in Moscow now, or can you not do that?
I left Moscow 4 years ago because I know now that trip back to Moscow will be a one-way trip to me.
Yeah. That says a lot about human rights in Russia.
Look, it's a dictatorship. I think it's amazing that people are still asking about the nature of Putin's regime after what he did in Ukraine, after what he did in Syria, and not even saying after what he did in Russia proper. And now he keeps attacking other countries. It's not only the United States. You can look at Europe, France, Great Britain, now Germany. Putin keeps raising stakes because, again, he knows only the confrontation could help him to justify his stay in power.
So how do you process the news today, and the news yesterday from the Washington Post, that President Trump shared classified intelligence information with the Russian foreign minister on ISIS?
Are you surprised?
Well, they're denying it.
No. They said, unless I'm wrong, but the statement from the White House, from General McMaster, the head of National Security Council, was that neither sources nor methods have been released. But that's right.
But the Post is arguing. The Post is saying that they got enough information that the Russians can figure it out.
Again, I guess that's typical for Trump. He was bragging. They talked about Syria. Trump, I think, again, as Obama administration has mistakenly looking for Russian cooperation in Syria, though Putin has no interest in helping Americans there. And Trump was bragging about some of the U.S. operations there. And I'm not surprised that in the process of his conversation, trying to impress his counterparts, he revealed. I think there was no. It was unintended, but it's typical for Trump. He's uncontrolled. He could tweet it, and then just he had Lavrov and Russian ambassador Kislyak. So, and he told them something that I have no doubt has been already used by Russian intelligence to identify the source on the ground and to turn it into their advantage.
You think Trump has actually been good for a lot of Americans?
Oh, Trump effect was good for many Americans because for many years I've been talking to Americans about problems with human rights elsewhere, and many of them, shrugged their shoulders, had very dismissive reaction. That's happening somewhere else, in Russia, in Iran, in China, never in America. Welcome. Now they realize that, as once Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. So Trump effect, I think, will have a long-term positive impact on bringing young Americans into politics. People now are learning about U.S. Constitution, about the foundation of the Republic, independent judiciary. And by the way, one thing that worked in favor of all human rights activists in the world is the clash between Donald Trump and U.S. courts. I could see how Russian propaganda machines stumbled when, after Trump signed the executive order, American court, just a judge from a backward state, simply, just overruled. And instead of arresting the judge, Trump had no choice to go to the to appeal court and lost again. So for countries like Russia or Iran, that tells that, for ordinary people, that democracy and separation of power works. And this is quite an important message. So I think the conflict between Trump's ego and personality and U.S. political institutions could produce good results both in America and outside. Though, of course, we can expect such blows as happened 2 days ago, because the man definitely is not qualified for the job.
What's next for you?
I'm still engaged in promoting the game of chess through Kasparov Chess Foundation across the world. I'm engaged in promoting human rights as the chairman of the Human Rights Foundation. I keep writing books. I'm doing more and more speeches because people are concerned about future of AI and the future of humanity. So there are many things where I could apply my experience and my own intelligence. And the life is busier than ever.
Do you see the world through the prism of the strategies that you learned in chess? Did you learn for such a long time and from such an early age, you learned to think very strategically?
I try to apply my chess knowledge, what I learned from the game of chess, to analyze different situations around the world. And I have to say that we are now in a great need of the long-term strategy. That's one of the biggest challenges for the free world, that after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, there was no strategy to replace the strategy that helped to win the Cold War.
Garry Kasparov, thanks for coming in. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks for inviting me.